point of entry work, again, it's really three things for us. It's how we enter the point with our base, it's our strike, and then how we release from the block. Those three things are the things that we spend time on. That's the progression. And so starting first with the base, we believe in using same foot, same shoulder, or as I approach the block, the shoulder with which I'm attacking that block should mirror the leg that's up, and that's going to give us power. It's easy to see when you're engaging a block that if your base is square, and by the way, the one thing that's become apparent in this last month of study for me, okay, is that the better your player is with his hands, the less this matters. If you have a guy that has a really powerful punch, like Tavon Coney played square a lot at the line of scrimmage with his base. There's not a lot of stagger there because he could. He was so powerful and strong. And to me, he's an exception. He's an outlier in that respect. The more they're good with their hands, the less this matters. The more your player is going to use like a forearm and a shoulder, like compress into contact, which we have to do both taking on a fullback, taking on a lineman, any kind of collision of higher tempo. The more important it is that their near leg is up, because if this is going to be kind of the blunt force instrument, this is going to be the power. And so if I'm square and trying to use forearm, shoulder, or certainly if that leg is back and I'm soft in my lower, I'm going to absorb more power than I'm going to generate. Okay, and so that's a point that we work on a ton. Everything we do in our footwork drills focuses on our whole foot in the ground. And so at the point of attack, it's important. It's physics, right? The more surface area, the more friction I can create with my cleat, the more power I can generate or force I can generate on an object. And so that's another important point. And when you study that, you start to look at how important ankle flexibility is. And so at the point of attack, my ability to keep my cleats in the ground and bend my knees and keep my heel down, the more powerful, the more effective I'm going to be both in footwork, change of direction, but also in generating power on an object. If you have players whose ankles are tighter, what will happen is their knees bend and their heels will come off the ground. And now you're going to have a player that can play on the surfaces of his toes. He's going to be a less effective mover, and he's going to be less powerful at the point of attack. Now, I'm a living and breathing example that just because someone can keep their heel on the ground and bend their knee doesn't make them an elite athlete, right? Because that's why I'm here talking with you and not still playing in some fashion in the career. But something to keep an eye on as you coach linebackers, and there's things, I'm sure Coach Bayless has things in your strength programs and in your search and strength conditioning, you can find some things that can loosen ankle muscles up. That's an important thing to do. So with the strike, we're looking for a lax. We talk a lot about like the strike of a snake, relaxed and snapping hands. The palm wedge is the weapon. And so again, when we deliver a blow, we want to actually form that wedge with our hand, have the wrist cocked back like this, thumbs will be up, hands will be tight. And we want to use that surface because when it comes to your hand strike, that's going to be the surface that generates the most forceful blow. And so it's a relaxed hand. If I'm tight, if I'm, another thing to watch out for when in strike, if I'm lifting from low to high, right, I'm not going to generate power. We want strike through three joints. We want strike through shoulder, elbow, wrist. And so that when I make contact, those three joints are in line. And that strike should be eye level. Again, even if you're hitting a sled, if I'm striking it low, I'm not generating power through that punch. My power is about lining up all these big muscles, but specifically those three. And if I have it at eye level, that's going to make sure those are in line. And then the release, we talk a lot about ripping and things like that. To me, taking on a block is about how fast I can get the block locked out and how fast from that point I can snatch it back and pull through. Because especially when I'm going against like a heavier player, maybe I'm giving up 100 pounds in weight at times, like my effectiveness is based on my ability to snap into the block, and then as soon as I get that block jolted back, then release it back down. Use their weight and leverage against them, right? And it takes twitch and it takes explosion to do that. But I think those things can be trained. And so that's what we're going to talk about here.